Welcome to a short reflection by Sebastian Mahfoud in Canto 30 of Dante's Purgatorio. Beatrice's entrance is dramatic. She arrives in a cloud of flowers that rise like fountains from the angel's hands, and fall about the chariot in showers. Dante's first response is to tremble in her presence, and fall in love with her all over again. He is, after all, in the presence of not only divine revelation, but also divine love. Beatrice is the one, after all, who at Mary's command descended into limbo to seek Virgil's help in lighting Dante's path to God. She's invited him here, and he's in awe of the feeling she inspires within him. To understand the full meaning of this, we have to remember that Beatrice is playing two roles. One, literally, that she's the dead girl we met in La Vita Nuova, the woman about whom Gemma complained as Dante was composing love poetry to her. On the allegorical level, though, she's a whole other story. She's God's inspired word, through whose eyes Dante will soon be able to see Christ. A flashlight, when exposed to the light of day, will dim so completely that its light will vanish. Likewise with Virgil when Beatrice arrives. In Fides et Ratio, Pope John Paul II explained that based upon God's testimony and enjoying the supernatural assistance of grace, faith is of an order other than philosophical knowledge, which depends upon sense perception and experience, and which advances by the light of the intellect alone. Philosophy and the sciences function, the Pope continues, within the order of natural reason, while faith, enlightened and guided by the Spirit, recognizes in the message of salvation the fullness of grace and truth, which God has willed to reveal in history, and definitively through His Son, Jesus Christ. It is for this reason, and no other, that Virgil has to vanish at this point. In the person of Beatrice, Dante's just been exposed to divine revelation. This doesn't mean that he's lost his reason. After all, faith builds upon and perfects reason, in the way that grace perfects nature. But it is precisely for this reason that Virgil is no longer necessary. He represented human reason without the light of revelation, in spite of all his knowledge of supernatural things. And now Dante's intellect will lose its limitations and be supernaturally elevated. Beatrice's first word is Dante, which Ciardi believes indicates a kind of rebaptism, where Dante's ending one life of the mind and entering into a second life of the faith. This is, moreover, the only time in the entire Commedia where Dante's name is actually said. Beatrice then tells him, "Look at me well, I am she, I am Beatrice," and proceeds thereafter to give him a tongue-lashing for his having abandoned his pursuit of her, in his zeal to pursue a lesser science, namely that of philosophy uninformed by theology, the false images of good that promise what they never wholly pay. Dante, at the beginning of her speech, freezes, and is so terrified that even the angels try to intercede for him. Beatrice will not allow her tongue to be stayed, however, but condescends to explain the case to the assembled angels as though she were a district attorney, and Dante one of the accused. What Beatrice is after is a final confession on Dante's part, and a true act of contrition. This is the last hurdle for him to cross before he's ready for the river Lethe, for he cannot be forgiven until he shed some penitential tears. In the final canto of La Vita Nuova, Dante writes, "After writing this sonetto," the one I've pictured above, "a miraculous vision appeared to me, in which I saw things which made me decide to write nothing more of this blessed one until such time as I could treat her more worthily. And to achieve this I study as much as I can, as she truly knows, so that, if it pleases Him by whom all things live, that my life last a few years, I hope to write of her what has never been written of any woman." This is it, then. The Divine Comedy is entirely packaged around a woman who would lead Dante through hell before bringing him to heaven. And as we see, allegorically, that Dante's been in pursuit of divine revelation all this time, but wasn't able to respond to its presence in his life until now when he's confronted head-on by it. It starts with a faith seeking understanding, as St. Anselm put it, prompted by grace, by divine love first seeking us in order to lead us out of darkness into the sweetness and light of God's presence. In this sense Dante succeeded in his goal, and wrote of Beatrice what has never been written of any woman, that she is an archetype of all things holy and good.